Ending conflict, environmental protection should be valued as more significant than economic growth. Environmental protection is defined as policies and procedures aimed at conserving the natural resources, preserving the current state of natural environment, and, where possible, reversing its degradation. Economic growth is defined as an increase in the amount of goods and services produced per head of the population over a period of time. Our first contention is the environment is rapidly declining. Without change, there will be no economy to grow. Our second contention is the current reliance on limited fossil fuels will one day destroy the earth and the economy when they are depleted. We must find new renewable sources of energy to sustain life on earth. Our first contention, environment is rapidly declining. Without change, there will be no economy to grow. According to the Executive Director of the United Nations Environmental Protection, Akim Steiner, he says, if current trends continue and the world fails to enact solutions that improve current patterns of production and consumption, if we fail to use natural resources sustainably, then the state of the world's environment will continue to decline. It is essential that we understand the pace of the environmental change that is upon us, and that we start to work with nature instead of against it to tackle any environmental threats that face us. Some experts say that the Earth could be unlivable in as little as 10 years, according to an article by the Washington Post. According to EarthDay.org, humans now are among the largest species extinction in the last 60 million years. On average, between 1 and 5 species will go extinct per year. Currently, scientists estimate that we are now losing a species at 1,000 to 10,000 times the average rate, with multiple species dying daily. Multiple species will disappear before we learn about them or the benefits they can bring to our planet. Currently, species are dying so fast that we never even learn of them. A new study has suggested that insect populations have decreased by more than 75% over the last 28 years. This is a huge issue. 80% of wild plants rely on bees and other insects for pollination, and 60% of bird species rely on insects for food. Habitat destruction, exploitation, and climate change are driving the loss of half of the world's wild animal population. My second contention is, current reliance on limited fossil fuels will one day destroy the earth and the economy when they are depleted. We must find new renewable sources of energy to sustain life on earth. In many countries, pollution caused by fossil fuels already puts humans at risk. Pollution is not only in the air, but in the ground in which we grow our food, the water we use daily to drink, bathe, and cook. In many Eastern countries, such as India, China, North Korea, Pakistan, and more, they have very high pollution indexes. In Delhi, India, the air pollution index is 704. And in most Asian countries, urban areas, the air index ranges from 650 to 999. Anything above 150 is considered unhealthy to all human life. In the U.S., the highest pollution index is 333 in Queens, New York. And in Texas, the highest is only 58. Current in Denton is 38. Currently, no strong or specific environmental laws that are actively enforced, aside from very general laws that most countries enforce themselves. In order to save the existence of humanity on Earth, the international agencies must come together to create laws and actively enforce them to ensure everyone is doing their part to save the Earth. According to the UN's website, water pollution alone causes major issues. Think about Flint, Michigan. Water pollution there killed 12 and severely sickened 87 others within a one-year time, which only started because the local government couldn't afford the expenses of safe water, and they haven't had safe water for the last 5 years, and that is by an article by CNN. And that is here in America. It is estimated that 1.8 million deaths occur annually in the region of Asia and the Pacific alone, due to water-related issues and unsafe drinking water. While the U.S. currently doesn't have any major air pollution problems like other countries, we still produce a lot of pollution in the air and can affect the entire Earth. Although the U.S. has made some strides in the right direction, other countries lacking in those same strides could hurt the U.S. over time. Global warming, for example, if the glaciers all melt, most of the southern states would be underwater. And the U.S. being a leading international superpower, we must lead the way to protect the environment and help introduce international policies that enforce them to ensure the environment stays protected. The United Nations has already researched and founded the problem areas, had major summits with leading countries to discuss legislation and policies to put in place. And these policies were drawn up and agreed upon, but never actually put into action. They are currently being used as goals for 2030. The work of manpower has already been done to report the issue on earth and come up with solutions, yet no country wants to put the time and effort to force them in their own countries. They are too worried about the here and now and not the problems that will rise in 10 years.
Sitting. 5 minutes.
Yes, the environment is important and yes, it should be protected. But no, it should not be prioritized over economic growth for our country. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines conflict as competitive or opposing action of incompatibles. According to Business Dictionary, environmental protection is considered policies and procedures aimed at conserving the natural resources, preserving this current state of the natural environment, and where possible, reversing its degradation. Lastly, according to Paul Romer in his book, Economic growth occurs when people take resources and rearrange them in ways that are more valuable. In case you didn't catch that, we said it takes resources and makes them more valuable. If we focus on economic growth, we will be able to create funding to conduct more research to create ways to help better the environment. Necessary innovation to protect the environment, such as the suction harvester, which rids lakes and rivers of debris, will not be possible without economic growth for our country. Market forces cause economic growth, which in turn leads to environmental improvements. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines market forces as the action of buyers and sellers that cause the prices of goods and services to change without being controlled by the government. Put simply, economic growth helps to undo the damage done in earlier years, says economist Bruce Scandal. Because rich economies sequester more carbon than poor ones, stored carbon must be subtracted from emissions to determine an economy's net addition to greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas emissions are described as the emission into the Earth's atmosphere of any various gases, especially carbon dioxide, according to Collins Dictionary. McCormick's data shows that rich countries take out more carbon of the air than poor ones, and that the growth rate of net carbon emissions per person will soon be negative in the United States. A nation cannot prosper without the economy. Maintaining a good economy is more important than maintaining a good environment because a good economy leads to good financial growth for the nation, while a terrible economy leads to the nation that is fundamentally incapable. If we let our country fall deeper into debt, many more people will be unemployed, searching for ways to provide for their families, and a bad economy will lead to the collapse of the nation. The Great Recession is a term that represents the sharp decline in economic activity during the late 2000s, which is considered the most significant downturn since the Great Depression. According to a 2011 report by the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, the Great Recession was avoidable. There were several key contributing factors that they said led to the downturn. First, the report identified a failure on the part of the government to regulate the financial industry. Next, there were too many financial firms taking on too much risk. The shadow banking system, which is a group of financial intermediaries facilitating the credit of a union across the global financial system, but whose members are not subject to regulatory oversight. The shadow banking system also refers to unregulated activities by regulated institutions. Examples of intermediaries that are not subject to regulation include hedge funds, which are a limited partnership of investors that use high-risk methods, such as investing with borrowed money in hopes of realizing large capital gains, unlisted derivatives, and other unlisted instruments, while examples of unregulated activities by regulated institutions include credit default swaps, which are contracts that allow an investor to swap or offset his or her credit risk with that of another investor. When the shadow banking system failed, the outcome affected the flow of credit to the consumer and business. Other causes identified included excessive borrowing by consumers and corporations, and lawmakers who were not able to fully understand the collapse of the financial system. The contagion quickly spread to other economies around the world, most notably in Europe. As a result of the Great Recession, the United States alone shed more than 7.5 million jobs, causing its unemployment rate to double. Further, American households lost roughly $16 trillion of net worth as a result of the stock market plunge. This comes to show that when we fail to protect our economy, our country and citizens suffer the immense consequences such as unemployment, bankruptcy, homelessness, and other consequences we should worry about. To wrap it up, we believe that the economic growth of our country is more necessary for proper environmental protection.
Okay, 3 minutes of crossfire between all.
I have a question. How do you guys plan to tackle economic growth while keeping the environment safe?
Oh, wait, can you repeat the question?
How do you plan on tackling economic growth while keeping the environment safe?
Well, whenever we want to, so we want to tackle economic growth, like you're saying, we want to keep it going. Okay, so we want to keep the economy growing, and by doing that, we're going to be using that money that we are creating for the economy, and we're going to be putting it towards funding for things that will help the environment. Like I said in the beginning, the suction harvester, which is one thing that has been created, which kind of floats in rivers and lakes and stuff, and it goes through and it picks up the debris, so it keeps the marine life healthy and from ingesting things that they shouldn't.
As far as when we were talking about other countries putting off more emissions than ours, that is a really good point. Yet, the United States is such a strong superpower within the international policies, especially with UN. They're one of the founding members, and they control a lot of the policies that happen. So it's up to us to lead the way in those policies and laws, because otherwise no one else is going to follow them if we don't set them and influence them in a way. Especially India and China and things like that. We can help the entire world move forward as far as environment goes, because their issues are one day going to cause more harm on us as well.
Have we already done that, though?
We fix some of it, but we have these policies in place, but they're not set. They're not law. They're drawn up and they're considered goals, but they're not currently being used, set as actual enforcement laws.
Yeah, so if they, and whether we put it in the law or not, why does it matter if they take that on in their countries? We can't force anyone to do that.
We can. The United Nations has such a strong influence across all the nations, and there's the hundreds of countries that belong to the United Nations. And the United Nations saying, for you to belong to us, you have to have these environmental laws and policies in place and have to enforce them in the country. That causes everyone to bring up to speed what needs to be done to impact the environment.
So in your first speech, you said something about how America doesn't have as much environmental issues as other countries. Would you say that's because of the fact that we have more economic growth?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would say that it's kind of, sorry, that was kind of confusing, but our problems as far as air pollution goes are not as strong as other countries such as India, China, things like that.
Would you say that's
a lot of
That's time.
things has to be because
Okay. Okay, second affirmative. Alexis?
So, your last question was really about since America has lesser environmental issues, is that because of their economic growth? So, actually, around 50% of all carbon emissions are emitted by the richest 10% of the world's population. Yet, the global warming is making climate change refugees of the world's poorest. So even though our economy is better than everybody else's, it's affecting all the poorer countries because of us. So because we're more stable economically, we should be able to also enforce that with the environment, because we're inevitably taking that out on the poorer countries, which essentially is wrong. Also, you guys mentioned that environmental protection can't go on without economic growth, and you said that it would lead to debt. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. But in monetary terms, the EPA has produced as much as $640 billion in benefits and only cost about $45 billion over the last decade, and that's from the University of Pennsylvania.edu. Also, more than 1 death in 7 worldwide is the consequence of environmental pollution, which is the single greatest cause of disease and death in poorer countries. Air pollution accounts for over 6 million deaths worldwide. In 2015, outdoor air pollution was responsible for more than 4 million deaths, over half of which occurred in China and India, and an additional 2.8 million deaths occurred as a result of household air pollution. They also said that the U.S. is the #1 in trash producing out of all the countries in the world. If the entire world lived like the average American, we would need 5 planets to provide enough resources, according to the Chicago Tribune. The World Bank estimated that in 2013, air pollution cost the world economy some $225 billion in lost labor income. They also said that since you guys are advocating for the economy, isn't it better for people to have more jobs? Because if people have more jobs, then people are making more money and therefore keeping the economy afloat. So that also goes into hand in hand with environmental protection, because the effects on employment rate often are small compared to the net social benefits of regulation. They also said that well-designed rules can save the public money by preventing negative impacts before they happen, rather than negating expensive impacts after they happen. The health benefits of an environmental rule, such as avoiding early mortality, are normally much larger than either the cost for industries to comply with the rule or the potential job impacts. For example, the EPA proposed controls for hazardous air pollutants such as mercury from industrial boilers in 2010. EPA estimated the rule would generate between $25.2 and $65.5 billion in annual net benefits, including up to 8,000 premature deaths avoided per year. By comparison, the agency estimated cumulative net employment effect on the regulated industry of negative 4,000 and a surplus of 8,300 jobs, with a certain estimate of surplus of 2,100. So in the short run of eliminating oil and gas jobs, it would seem detrimental, yet could easily be made by adding double the amount of jobs in renewable energy source fields, such as wind power, solar power, hydropower, geothermal, biomass, stuff like that. Also, as far as economically, many countries can repurpose current jobs that involve oil and gas and repurpose and retrain and give them proper support and aid, like Spain is currently doing. Spain has made a deal to completely rid their country of coal mining by giving early retirement and reskilling other workers. They will be using the current coal miners to restore the economy, according to The Guardian. And as referring to the $45 million in costs and the $64 billion in benefits, it cannot compare to the health benefits. When there's healthier and more productive citizens that are living longer, the citizens can go to work and contribute to society instead of receiving treatment for preventable illnesses caused by pollution.
Best time.
Evan. Oh, okay. Why? Sorry. Cindy Sheridan. Right? Okay. 5 minutes.
So you guys brought up a point about pollution, and because of the scarcity, attempting to eliminate all harm caused by pollution kind of makes no sense. It would be nice to eliminate pollution, but reducing it is not always desirable. As long as we reduce pollution harm to zero, the marginal benefit would be less than the marginal cost. So just to say that again, it's going to cost us more to try and fix all the pollution than for us just to leave it as is and focus on evaluating in other areas. You guys also talked about how in impoverished countries, I believe, that people are dying because of pollution rates. That there isn't a strong of what people are dying over, that is not on the highest of highs. There's a lot of things that beat that out. And mostly in these impoverished countries, especially according to the World Health Organization, every 18 million people, over 18 million people are dying because of poverty or poverty-related problems, which is about 50 people per day. So when we talk about the people that are dying, it's because they don't have the right food, they don't have the right water resources, they don't have the right shelter, and overall it's not because of pollution in these impoverished countries, it's because of they don't have basic they don't have basic ways to live. We also you had talked about how the richest 10% of the population creates the most pollution.
50% of the world's carbon emissions.
And 50% of the world's carbon emissions?
Not the most pollution, it's 50% of the world's carbon emissions.
Okay. So the richest 10% create the 50% of the world's largest pollutions. I guess, scratch that. When we talk about the economy, we are focusing on, you guys were focusing on the U.S. economy to begin, but when we talk about the global economy, when we reduce poverty, it increases job opportunities for people in these countries. And overall, whenever U.S. air pollution is not the main problem. If we can't be providing basic rights for our people, then how are we not able to keep them alive, I guess. I'm good.
Okay. Just a reminder that you can only respond to each other when it's during that crossfire time, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're on the third affirmative, so chance. Actually, I'm just kidding.
Is there a
It's
crossfire?
crossfire. Yeah,
I know, I was
sorry.
like, wait, what?
Y'all threw me off. And then it'll be chance.
Cool.
Okay, so 3 minutes on the clock. Go.
Sorry. Water pollution over there, where they don't have clean, safe drinking water, is because they're not informed that they can't dispose of things in their water that they drink from. They put everything into their rivers where they drink from, so all the diseases they're getting because they're dying is because they're drinking water that has human feces in it, and they're dying off of diseases from that. And that's something that just information alone can save. And that information is not currently being broadcasted and helped towards them.
You also stated that people around the world were dying from basically various other causes, and kind of put people that were dying from air pollution and things attributed to environmental protection kind of on the back burner, as if it wasn't something that was affecting people throughout the world. But according to the World Health Organization, 4.6 million people die per year due to air pollution.
What's the question?
I'm just rebutting what you said.
Oh, okay. But is there a question?
I do have a question. It's kind of a vague yes or no question. So I know you said something about we can't get the pollution down to zero. I don't honestly think that is the goal. I think the goal is to lessen the pollution. So you guys are aware that air pollution moves, correct? Okay, good. So with that being said, no, I mean exactly. With that being said, do you agree, yes or no, that the goal isn't to get the pollution to zero, that it is to lessen the pollution, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, And then just reaffirm this for me. You guys said that pollution wasn't really a big cause of death, correct?
Of like what people are dying of in the world?
Yeah.
It's not the number.
Okay, even after I said more than 1 death and 7 worldwide is the consequence of environmental pollution, which is the single greatest cause of disease and death, right?
Where is that coming from?
From the rebuttal that I
No,
stated.
like the source.
Oh, the source. Okay, sorry. It's from actually Harvard.edu. They did a debate on this as well.
Well, more than half, so 54% of the deaths in 2016, which is 56.9 million deaths, are caused by heart disease and stroke. And those are like the most common forms of death other than that.
And is that just in the U.S.?
No, it's in the world as
In the
well.
worldwide? Okay. And where is that source from?
The World Health Organization.
Okay.
That's time.
So now Chance.
All right, so when in conflict, environmental protection is more valuable than economic growth. And I kind of want to reiterate, if the environment could adapt to humans, I believe we will be having an entirely different debate. But we as a nation should be able to protect what has led us to this prosperous life. Our planet is being consumed by humanity's greed for economical growth while undeniably pushing towards an uprising global warming, which is a depletion of natural resources and ultimately positioning the next generations to come in what will be an unsafe environment. My team has listed claims of facts to prove our position that we are the affirmative, and we firmly believe the environment is rapidly declining and we must push for environmental protection over economic growth. And here's why. Without change, there will be no economy to grow. We cannot keep relying on limited amount of fossil fuels, which will one day destroy the earth and the economy once they're depleted. So we must find renewable sources of energy to sustain life on earth. First, the environment is rapidly declining, and like I said, without change, there will be no economy to grow. So we cannot deteriorate and destroy the environment by implementing a system of economic wealth when ultimately the rate of change we're going, the environment will soon cease to exist. The earth will continue to be around for years to come, but we must look at the big picture. So to simplify my meaning, we love food, right? Also. So if we can eat as much, if we can eat as much of it as possible, if we could, correct? So there are people, and this is an analogy, there are people who train and maintain their bodies. So while the majority of us who eat to get greedy over time, we continue to indulge, which is not good for us. So even though we know the effects of eating tasty things that are bad for us, we keep doing it. Our bodies naturally send out warnings, like the planet. So, for example, if we continue to go at the rate that we're going with the planet, like you guys said with global warming, that would be the increase of hurricanes, flooding, and tornadoes. So our body will soon give up on us, causing issues and health complications, which we will ultimately die just like the planet. So the people over time who viewed their bodies as temples and took care of it ultimately lived longer because they took care of it. This is how our planet works. So every portion of our body serves as a function, and right now we are the brain, the most important part of the human body. If you abuse one, you abuse the whole, and which will collapse, ceasing to work. So this is just like our planet. Like I said, we continue to indulge in wealth and neglect the earth. Every little species serves a purpose as well as we. And if they are extinct, then eventually soon we will be as well. They serve a purpose that ultimately benefits our lives. And without change, there will be no economy to grow. So we need to change in order to prosper. We need to protect our environment, and we need to take care of our bodies in order to live. So, we did not get you guys' really understand you guys' contentions, but like I said, we did offer claims of facts to back up our positions. Like I said, our economy is rapidly declining. So without it, there would be no economy to grow. We can't, and current reliance on limited fossil fuels will one day destroy our Earth and its economy, and soon fossil fuels will be depleted. So we must find new renewable sources of energy to sustain life on Earth. So with that, I understand that you guys did drop our contentions, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate that and state that as well.
It's time.
I'd like to reiterate our claims on why economic growth is more important. We stated that if we focus more on economic growth, we will be able to fund research to help environmental protection. Paul Romer's book, Economic Growth, states economic growth occurs whenever people take resources and rearrange them in ways that are more valuable. We also stated how if we focus on economic growth automatically helps. It will automatically help the environment. The economicist Bruce Yandel states, economic growth helps to undo the damage done in earlier years. And we also don't disagree with the fact that fossil fuels are depleting, but we would like to show just how when the economy thrives, the world thrives. Look at the solar tax credits that were started during the administration, but have continued through the Trump administration. There have been an increase in how much money you as a consumer get from having solar panels. The best part of this tax cut is if you choose to make your home environmentally friendly, then you get the tax cut. This leaves more money for families that in turn allows them to spend more money which overall makes the economy thrive. Also, we are not just talking about the U.S., we are talking about the global economic growth, which reduces poverty and increases job opportunities. We can have economic growth without environmental protection, but we cannot have environmental protection without economic growth. A lot of the environmental solutions would be impossible without the economy. The pollution is important to address because it provides job opportunities, not because it helps the environment. Thank you.
Sorry.
My team has effectively debated our stance on why environmental protection is a necessity, and that when in conflict, environmental protection should be more significant than economic growth. Today, I will summarize as to why they did so. We did this by breaking down the core essence of what exactly environmental protection is. Hannah, the first speaker, provided us with a definition of environmental protection, which is policies and procedures aimed at conserving the natural resources, preserving the current state of natural environment, and where possible, reversing its degradation. By giving the definition of our proposed topic, we have displayed a literal understanding of what we are here debating today. To support our understanding, we discussed various elements of environmental protection. Hannah also gave real-life examples that have occurred here in the U.S., such as the plant Michigan and their water crisis. The affirmative had two contentions, to which Speaker 1, Hannah, mentioned within the introduction of the debate. The first contention was that the environment is rapidly declining, and without change, there will be no economy to grow. The second contention was current reliance on limited fossil fuels will one day destroy the earth and the economy when they are depleted. We must find new renewable sources of energy to sustain life on earth. Hannah then went on to support these contentions with her various main points. The first two main points were the environment is rapidly declining. Without change, there will be no economy to grow. And the second, current reliance on limited fossil fuels will one day destroy the earth and the economy when they are depleted. We must find new renewable sources of energy to sustain life on earth. To ensure that this argument was strong, Speaker 1 of the affirmative included subsections with various statistics from credible sources and figures within the environmental community. Speaker number 2, Alexis, supported the affirmative's contentions with her rebuttals. Alexis began by discussing how making improvements within the infrastructure of the environment and how we as Americans should protect it and its resources, such as fossil fuels. Alexis went on to say, the U.S. needs to repurpose current jobs in oil and gas and add additional higher paying jobs in environmental protection. With this statement, she is presenting a possible solution to an impending problem. This strengthens the affirmative's argument because it shows the research and helps to identify this claim as a claim of fact rather than a claim of value. Alexis gave factual support along with another possible solution when she stated the estimated profits from the EPA. She stated, the health benefits of an environmental rule, such as avoiding early mortality, are normally much larger than either the cost for industries to comply with the rule or the potential job impacts. For example, the EPA proposed controls for hazardous air pollutants, such as mercury from industrial boilers in 2010. The EPA estimated the rule would generate between 25.2 and 65.5 billion in annual net benefits, including up to 8,000 premature deaths avoided per year. By comparison, the agency estimated a cumulative net employment effect on the regulated industry of between 4,000 and 8,300 jobs. The third speaker, Chance, solidified the argument by restating our thesis and giving additional analysis, as well as credible statistics. His approach made the argument more appealing to the average American. He provided real-life examples such as, even though we know the effects of eating tasty things that are bad for us, we keep doing it. Our bodies naturally sends out warnings. For the planet, it is the result of increased hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes. Our bodies soon give up on us and have issues, health complications, or untimely die. In doing this, he was able to give us an everyday example that would demonstrate the seriousness of this topic. In conclusion, the affirmative side should absolutely win this debate today because of the extensive research we did, along with the formatting we choose to implement to get our point across. We followed the contentions throughout the debate entirely, as opposed to our team who dropped our contention and contradicted themselves when Speaker 4 said, "The tax cuts on environmental efforts causing our economy to thrive." And she also said environmental protection is more important than economic growth, which completely contradicted their original statement. As well as providing a thesis that was inclusive to all team members to achieve one common goal, which was advocating for environmental protection for all. Thank you. Period.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's one more speaker, I'm so sorry. And it's Sheridan, right?
Oh my God.
Sydney Sheridan?
Yes.
You're the, okay, just making sure it was right, Sydney.
Yes. So we first would like to thank the judges for being here and you guys as well for participating in this debate. Your final speech mentions all of the things that your group did well on, but you did not do a good job in the fact that there was no argument that was being said about what we said. It was just what you guys said. Your contingencies weren't that clear, what you guys said as well. So we wanted to, we wish that you'd address the information and the claims which made our case stronger. We did not drop their contingencies, even though they did, and we addressed all the topics. They said that they dropped the contingencies, but didn't even clarify on what the contention was. There was also a lack of definitions within their first speech. We provided at least 5 or 6 in our speech that clarified what we were trying to say. Just to reiterate, we do believe that the environment is important, but not as important as environmental protection, or as economic protection. I would also like to point out that you guys, with the definitions again, the ones you did point out later on in the speech were not as strong as they should have been in the first. You also agreed with us in the fact that both of your contingencies were proven incorrect when that's the part that's in. And then what was your main point if they were both incorrect? That was, we also want to point out that we can have economic growth without environmental protection, but we cannot have environmental protection without economic growth. That endpoint is really important because without the economic growth, there is no environmental protection. We thrive as countries of this world whenever we have the resources to be able to provide for the people living here right now, not in 40, 50, 60 years later on down the line. Not that we can't have certain things put in place to help that, but we overall keep it, we overall focus on what is happening now. We did not drop their contingencies. We addressed all of the topics. They said were dropped, but we didn't even clarify, but they didn't even clarify what the contingency was. We focused on the main points that we can, with focus on different tax breaks, such as the solar panel tax break, that can help families, which makes the economy thrive. We also talked about how resources become more valuable. When we focus on economic growth, we'll be able to create funding to conduct more research, to create ways to better help the environment. And overall, we just believe that the environment, the economic growth is more important than environmental. Thank you.